Morning. Welcome to Open Source Workplace Daily. Mike, how you doing?
Good morning. Can you hear me, Steve? That was a
That is
joke.
too funny. That is very
That was
good.
a
Very
joke.
good.
Little sound issues yesterday, but hey, it's all good, man. That was the
It's
best I've
all
ever
good.
sounded, right?
I thought you were brilliant. I don't care
Yeah.
what anybody else says. I mean, I've never heard you so inspired, so provocative. I was
Yes.
surprised how far you pushed the boat yesterday. Some of the
I don't,
challenging things you were saying.
yeah, I don't usually curse when I'm talking about workplace and use swear words, but there was a lot out of my heart yesterday, a lot on my mind, so I couldn't help
Yeah,
myself. It
a
was
lot of a lot of
just
people
one,
won't believe
yeah.
you said that about them. They just won't. They just won't. And obviously, what stays on YouTube, it will always be on YouTube.
That's right.
So people will always know Mike.
You'll have to go back and listen. You have to watch, the May 18th edition of the OSW Daily Live to
Too
hear
funny.
all of
Too
my
funny.
my stream of profanity. It's fantastic.
It was good fun. It was good fun.
Yeah,
And obviously, part of we're obviously gonna leave it up because it's part of the process, right? The
yeah.
stupidity of us, me. I say me. It's me. It's all me. It wasn't you.
Our producer. We'll blame our producer, whoever that might be, out in the mystery.
If only Alec was around, we could blame him, but it
I
wasn't his fault.
know
It
we
wasn't
miss
his fault,
Alec.
But
Good
we do,
scapegoat.
we do. But yeah. So we talked about a lot of profound things yesterday, and I kind of want to roll into that during today's show as sort of we look at what I came across something that's called the transition process, and it's a psychological roller coaster that people go through as they go through experience anything, and as we sort of look at what we have gone through, you and I, you think about the emotions that we go through. We talk about it daily, but actually emotions shift moment to moment just based on what goes on and how we get influenced. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit today. But today is May 19th, Mike, and today is May Ray Day. Have you ever heard of May Ray Day?
May Ray. No, who is
No,
May
me
Ray?
neither. Apparently, it's the day when you start to plant your flowers, your seeds, because of this is when the
Oh, okay.
temperature is going to shift and so on and so forth. So there you go. A little anecdote
Okay.
of useless information that people will be able today and go and go. Today is May Ray
I
Day.
do not have a green thumb. My thumb is anything but green. I do not spend much time in the garden. Are you a planter,
A little bit, a little bit, a
agriculturalist?
little bit, a little bit. I get excited to plant. I don't get excited to maintain, but I get excited about the result where I sort of like to grow things I can eat. And that's what I get excited in the start and the end phase. The bit in the middle is where I often lack substance. People say that's in not just in planting things, that's in a lot of life. But that's for them to say, I suppose. But yeah,
I
I
enjoy
do.
the end phase of walking into a grocery store and picking up the vegetables already grown and
There
ready
you
for me to
go,
eat.
man.
That's what I
There you
like too.
go. I love it. Yeah, yeah, it is good. It is good. But how are you doing, Mike? And how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, and I didn't know this was coming, but it's interesting time, isn't it? I was going to ask you the same, and I can't wait for your State of the Union at the Steve Todd Mental House location. For me, I'm in a weird place. I think I'm in this place after a lot of ups and downs. I'm kind of in a steady place, and we've talked about the strange feeling of time either being slow or fast, and we've certainly experienced that over the last 2 months during our quarantine and during the pandemic. There were periods of time where there was so much news coming at me every day, so much just hunger for data and information about COVID and trying to understand the implications of the pandemic and reading all the great content that was being put out from other thought leaders in our industry and planning the return to the workplace and all those things. It was like a day was a week was a month, and it just felt like it was so slow. We come back. Well, I do my weekly show, and it was really where I noticed it most. I would do week after week of the Workplace Innovator live stream on Wednesdays at noon Eastern, and every week I was like, boy, has it been just a week or has it been a month or several months? There's so much that's happened. It's so much to talk about, so much different. Well, now I feel like things. It's again that paradox. Things have slowed in the sense of that I'm not drinking as much volume of information. There hasn't been the significant change. I think I don't know if there's still things going on and people are still tracking the data. The case count is still going up. It's still a day by day, ticker tape along the bottom of the screen of the newscast. But I just have stopped watching as much news. I turn the news on to see if there's anything major happening, a big development, a big change. I want to catch that if it happens. But I can't sit and watch the same stories over and over again. This is human nature, I think. So what I'm finding is that the more I tune out of the day-to-day deep dive of consuming information, the faster things are moving. So this is that paradox, right? It seems like the less I consume and the more I get into a routine of just doing my job and doing what I can control. That's always what I've said. When I'm having a difficult time with anxiety and fear and worry about the future, bring it back, Mike. You've reminded me, others have reminded me, things I've read have reminded me. Bring it back to the things you can control, the here and now. What can you do today? What can you do in this moment to focus yourself? So what do? I work on a podcast, or I read something related to my company or things I'm doing within my day-to-day work here at iOffice. And when I'm doing that day after day, all of a sudden it's like we're back into that work life where it's like, boy, time's flying again. It's already mid-May. What happened? It's May 19th. I thought May just started. So I don't know about you. I'm trying to explain this there's two sides of the same experience, but are you feeling any of that yourself, or are you doing okay? How are you feeling these days?
No, it's a great question, and it's something I was reminded of this morning as I watched a YouTube video. As you know, I'm a big watcher of a lot of different things, a lot of information. I try to flood my mind with variety of opinions, variety of viewpoints, so that I can sort of make as a balanced view or perspective. This morning, I found myself watching an HR webinar about purpose, about the transition and mental side of what everyone is going through. And I'm going to throw up a slide that actually will allow people to see what I mean by this. And what actually is put up is a transition process. And it can be relate to anything. But at the moment, obviously, we're talking about this in the context of COVID-19. And it's basically a start, and a sort of a start and an ending period, if you want to think, even though it says ending and new beginning, because in essence, the process that we go through, Mike, on a feeling, an emotion, to actually where we're ready to move forward and actually see the future, there's a whole lot of different phases we go through. And if you sort of think about this, and I looked at this, and I sort of looked at myself, and I sort of looked and I went, where am I today? Where was I last week? I mean, I was in a bad state last week. The week
I remember.
before, I was in a wonderful state where you were like, you've been so consistent, you're shining bright, and
And that's when I was
actually,
in my bad place. I was in a
yeah,
bad place. You were in a good place. And reversed
yeah.
last week. Yeah.
So as I look at this, and I did put this out on LinkedIn this morning, and I says, I think I'm at hope today. And sort of the looks is, this is how it's supposed to feel, like a pendulum, right? In essence, we swing back and forth, the emotions change, but only when we get to the acceptance point till we actually start to see a new beginning. And hope is where I sort of felt I sit this morning as I sort of looked through this. Have I been in frustration, anger, denial? Well, you go back to the start of all this, how many people were in shock and denial, right? And
Sure.
as we sort of went through, then we get anxious. Okay, what does the future look like? And then with that, then breeds hope, because we then take our mindset and we look to move it into a more positive mindset, to sort of help us to move forward. We then get enthusiasm by actually bringing that positivity into ourselves. Like you say, you read things, that injects enthusiasm, that injects positivity in the mind, and then that allows us then to move on to the acceptance phase. And if you think about anything, we're talking about COVID right now, but if you think about anything you want to give up, anything you want to correct in life, I think it was Dave Ramsey says the only time you actually get to a true point in change is when the frustration gets to a point where it's like, right, I've had it, right? Only whenever
Mm.
you get to that point are you then ready to ramp up and go up the other side of that little pendulum that was put up. And I find that fascinating. And sort of the webinar was all around this this pendulum, and sort of trying to get you as an individual to take acceptance of where you are, how you're feeling right now, and make you aware of it. And then obviously then work through the growth mindset. How do you then flood your mind? How do you bring in energy? How do you bring in ideas to actually allow you to move through the various phases? It was a great webinar.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And that chart and all you've just said is really something that I can relate to or resonates with me. And I think that was the turning point for me. 2 weeks ago, I had my real downtime, my feeling of hitting the digital wall, and this is it. I'm done. I gotta make a change. And when I think back to last week, it may be the week that I look back and say that's when I really accepted where we are with COVID-19 and with the conversation around it. It's not a matter of planning for post-pandemic life, the new normal, all the things we talked about. We called it many things. It's accepting that this is now part of our life. And let's start working through mentally and procedurally, planning wise, as workplace and facility management leaders. What can we do to prepare our workplaces, prepare our people to be as comfortable as they can be, as safe as they can be? And that's going to be different for everyone. Understanding, empathy, all the things that we had talked about for weeks and weeks, the understanding of hey, different vulnerabilities, different mental places, different roles, different responsibilities. Do you need to work from the office, or are you just as functional working from home? We learned all these things over 2 months. And then last week it kind of hit me that, hey, this is about living with the virus. And whether it's returning to public life in some way, shape, or form, reopening of the economy, reopening of restaurants. Do you go back to restaurants? Will you eat outdoors? Will you go to a movie theater once they open? Will you go to the beach? We talked about, people going to the beach. The summer's here. Going back to the workplace, all this discussion and planning around reopening of offices at lower capacity and physical distancing and putting those protocols in place and one-way traffic and avoiding the things that make the workplace great, like collisions and collaboration. We have to figure those things out still. Why do we go to the workplace to begin with? And that's the reset button we're on now. But it's like, let's know that we do need to get back to doing our work. And some will continue to do that from home and hopefully could be effective. But we know now that many can't. There's a lot of folks that cannot work from home or are just not as productive at home. And my philosophy shifted last week to let's accept this and work through these problems day by day. We're not going to figure it out today. We're not going to figure it out tomorrow or next week, but let's try different things. Let's see where we are. And also let's think about others first, because you and I, and we're just human beings. We all just have our bubble, right? Our bias, not just our own personal experience, but then the experience of those around us, which is also very limited. If we widen our perspective, look at other people and try to empathize and know if I was in that role or if I had that skill set or that personality type, how would I be feeling right now? Or if I had this situation at home where I had kids running around trying to homeschool or a lot of, different scenarios that you and I aren't experiencing, it would be a different mindset. It would be a different path towards, happiness. We're all trying to be on this journey towards, contentment and happiness and self-fulfillment and finding our mission, our purpose. You mentioned purpose. That's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. So we all have different journeys we're on, but we're all on this journey, and we have this little nuisance on the ride with us, COVID-19. And how do we keep ourselves safe and keep others safe and our communities safe as best we can, but know that there's no way to completely eliminate the risk. Let's figure out a way to live in some way of an acceptance plus purposeful mindset.
Yeah, and I think it's important to sort of recognize as well is that, that pendulum, actually, we shift through that as we've experienced ourselves, right? And absolutely, so I was acceptance, and then I went swinging back to a different emotion because of how I was feeling. And I think for me, understanding that is what is going to happen and having that visual, today, that's where I feel today, I know. So how do I get myself back up to that acceptance place? How do I get myself back up to that enthusiasm? understanding that that's going to shift it. And a lot of that shifting comes from anxiety of not knowing when this is going to be over, right? Anxiety of not
Right.
knowing or feeling that little bit of insecurity. There's an opportunity for me to not feel safe. And I think that's where individuals are going to sort of move through this. And obviously, then we have to do all we can to reinforce that mindset each day by, you know, feeding ourselves through information, what we watch, what we sort of listen to, who we interact with.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, what can we do about our sleep, our food, our exercise? You know, Ken Van Sormen released a video yesterday all the way where he went through these three things, and you know, it's like, so how do you create a wellness protocol? And he went through a fantastic, almost like he basically went on this 5 minute. I don't want to say. Trying to find the right word for it, but in essence, he went through this 5 minute speech of
Okay.
here's what it is you need to be looking at, and it all to come back to purpose, eliminate anxiety, reducing stress, all in the purpose of creating happiness. And then how do you do that? How do you maintain that? And he went through the sleep, eating, and also exercising, the importance of it. But then linking
Love it.
all that back to what you were talking about, you know. So how do we make that change, and how do we make that change in the workplace? And this morning I released a video I did with Jonathan Schultz, 30 ways we can eliminate touch points in the workplace. So basically, we
Okay.
did a video of where okay, so let's what's the day in the life of in a workplace, in an office, a building environment, and as we walk through the building, what are the elements that we touch? How can we use
Yeah.
technology or other solutions to eliminate those? So give people ideas
Yeah.
and opportunities to think about it. But what I found really incredible about the video was not necessarily the amount of things that we came up with, and obviously there's a whole lot more that we didn't even touch on, but it was more of some of the underlying tones that Jonathan was using, in the sense that, you know, change only happens when we need to. Today, we need to make change. Where everyone's at this point where the landlords, the tenants, employers, employees, everyone needs change. So therefore, the change is coming together. The collaboration, people are actually joining forces and helping each other. Companies are talking to each other at a much higher rate and level and interaction than they probably ever have before. I don't know about you, but I mean, the amount of webinars where people are coming together, sharing experiences, telling stories, sharing
Yeah.
plans, you know, allowing everyone to see. Everyone wants to do the right thing. No one wants to do the wrong thing. And I think that's what's allowing that transparency to actually take place. And I'm sure it's something that you're seeing in all the people and interactions that you have, especially with IFMA.
Oh, certainly, certainly. We're all in this together still, to some degree, to many degrees. Even though we're seeing this more. And yesterday, if you had heard me, if the audio was up yesterday, my concern was we were back to this world of polarization and everybody kind of taking their sides. And in a strange way, that was comforting to me. It's like, okay, the shock and the scary nature of this pandemic and COVID has gotten to the point where we've accepted what we're dealing with. And yes, it is sad, and I don't want to minimize in any way, even, you know, just the families affected and one life, let alone, you know, tens of thousands of lives being impacted by this. But we had gotten to the point where, okay, we know what this virus is doing. There are certain risks associated with it, and now I'm going to make my choice and do my thing. And you know, in the old American spirit of you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong, whatever it is, it's like we take our sides and we start going, you know, keep the economy closed or people will die. No, open the economy. It's all a big hoax. You know, there's the two extremes and then there's this dialogue in the middle. So I continue to see hopeful signs that we are in this together, that there is nuanced dialogue. We don't have to agree 100% on when to open or how to do it or what protocols are in place. But to share those ideas is so powerful and so useful and purposeful and effective. And it's something I hope we continue to do in this community, among our workplace friends, and also a facility management community with IFMA and other organizations. So there's that definitely going on. But my question for you, Steve, because I love what you were just saying, and I got to go watch Ken, and I love what I've heard his past videos, and Jonathan. You know, sitting in, how do you consume information? What do you think your audience wants? What do you want? If you had to stop creating content and just consume content. You're a YouTube guy, right? You like to sit and watch YouTube videos. I love podcasts. I guess that's why we do what we do, right? We find what we are most passionate about, what we like. I know people that just can't watch a video. They have no patience for even a short 30 to 60-second video. It's just something they can't do. And even audio, they don't process audio. They read. They much rather just read a blog. And thank goodness those are out there too. So we have all these different forms and all these different platforms. And I guess I'm answering my own question as I speak, but we just have to put out the information in as many different formats as possible to let different people with different personality types and different, ways of processing information process that information. But I'm curious, just are you finding, and this is just an exercise I just came up with. If you didn't do content creation, if you were just a real estate executive doing what you do, certainly part of a community where you're interested in hearing from peers. And I'm answering your own question for you because I know that's why you created Open Source Workplace, is to have that place to go. But if you didn't have your own, if you weren't the guy doing it, what do you enjoy most? Where do you get the most satisfaction, information, and feeling of a sense of community with your peers?
It's a great question, and you kind of did answer the question within your question.
I know you too well.
I know you do, and I'm sure the audience do too. That is the whole reason why I created Open Source Workplace, right? I wanted to create an environment for people to share information and share knowledge that I thought was lacking whenever I was trying to learn the profession. So that's what I was trying to do. What I find through this experience with COVID-19 is, I don't commute to the office no more. So that gives me 90 minutes each 3 days a week that I don't commute now. The other 2 days I work from home. So one, it provides me the opportunity to create this with you. Creating this with you actually incentivizes me or drives me, or it makes me commit to you, to the audience, to ensure that I'm as well briefed by the time we get on here. I know that often may not sound like or seem like that's the case, but that's what I try to do. The other opportunity it's allowed me and allowed Open Source Workplace is to bring alternative mindsets and alternative thoughts, processes, viewpoints to a platform to allow people to ingest and really think through alternative viewpoints. Because there is no right answer, right? Governor Cuomo said it the best over the weekend. He says, whatever I tell you today, I guarantee you it's wrong, right? And he went through and he stated what he actually said in past press conferences that actually proved to be incorrect. So we have to assume that. But in essence, how do we bring people together? And that's why I'm sort of creating this Open Source Workplace team of influencers who can contribute to a conversation, who will have alternative viewpoints, but then collectively we all can gain a perspective of what we think, one, we need as individuals, two, what our organization needs, and then how can we influence and help the actual employees within those organizations. And that's what I'm trying to do. And the benefit I get from it is I get to have the conversations the 10 minutes before and the 10 minutes after we do the recordings. And as you know, that's where the real juice does come through.
It's be me. Hopefully I'll come back.
Yeah,
I lost you for a second there, Steve.
You've come back.
Good.
So,
okay.
So in essence, it's just like summing up, Mike, that the beautiful thing about doing Open Source Workplace is the videos is the 10 minutes before and the 10 minutes after when you're actually interviewing with, chatting with somebody. You're getting all those little updates. You're getting the ability to share, ask questions that sort of allow me to sort of gain the knowledge. But in essence, for the community for Open Source Workplace, the hope and expectation is I bring alternative viewpoints. This week, I'm bringing on 4 additional guests who haven't been on before, which again is going to bring a completely different perspective on what's been shared. And some of these folks are reaching out to me because they've seen the videos and they have a different opinion and they want to share that different opinion. I want to be the platform that allows people to do that. And again, I just want to remind you, people are not paying to be on this platform. This is something that they are given their time, they're given their perspective so that everybody can share. It's called open sourced workplace because it is open. I don't want it to be gated. I do not want it to be influenced by money. But
The
in
big
essence,
dollars.
the big
Follow the
dollars,
money,
yeah,
Steve.
yeah, yeah. But in essence, I think that helps everybody. I think it does.
It does. It does. And I look forward to um, hearing some of those alternative perspectives. I love if we can find ways to have, respectful dialogue where two people with differing opinions can come together and have a conversation, even a debate over some of these things in a real way. I would watch that in a second. I would love to see more of that. I think we still dance around those things, and I think we struggle as a community because it's just something that doesn't happen in our community very much. Workplace, I think it happens over in Europe more often. There's honest debate on Twitter, and you hear people, jabbing at each other. And I know it's part of the culture there. Where here, I don't know. It's like people bite their tongue, and I don't want to become like a politics type show, or even I've joked about the fact that even in the Star Wars community, there's this, in social media, there's this nastiness that goes on. If people disagree with opinion or whatever, they just get ugly with each other. I don't want that, but I think there's a healthy dialogue that needs to take place with differing perspectives, because we all are in the same boat. We don't know what we don't know. And the truth of the matter is we don't know what the truth of the matter is. That's still the case as it was 2 months ago. We have more information now than we did then, and it continues to come in. But now we're heading into decision-making time, and we're reopening our offices and trying to do what's right. And everybody's trying to do what's right. And it's going to be a challenge because you're going to have the need to put protocols in place, and you're going to have some among your staff that will think it's all foolishness, and some are just not comfortable no matter what you do. So there's this need to find that respectful tone, respectful, nuanced conversation. I love that word. It just means, yes, I can see your point of view. I see it differently. Let me tell you why I see it the way I do. Oh, well, you see it that way. Tell me why. Let's try to find this way to work together, because we're all in the same boat here. Let's work together to get through this. If that type of attitude was present throughout our society, we'd be in such a better place. So I don't know. My role is
agree.
just to kind of keep it real, and keep
Yeah,
it
no,
lighthearted if I can.
I love the point you made though about I think we need to be a little more honest, and I think the industry is a little not honest. That's the wrong word. We're very close. We talk about being open, but actually we all operate in a very closed environment, right? Yes, we want to talk to share some things, but there's a lot of things that companies keep to themselves, and I totally understand it, right? It is for the protection of their IP and their processes. I understand it.
Sure.
But I would love it to be a lot more open. And one of the things that I sort of look at when I talk to the consultants or service providers or whatever it is, I almost feel it's my duty and responsibility to give them an honest opinion, because that allows them to adjust. And whether or not they accept it or whether they like it, that's okay. It's just an opinion. I guarantee
It hurts to hear. It hurts to hear criticism.
I guarantee you I'm not right. But in essence,
well,
it's an
it's
opinion.
okay.
You know what I mean?
But it helps, though. It helps to hear
Right.
those opinions, and as long as the recipient can put that opinion and process it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And believe me, as you are, someone who puts themselves out there, creates content, we're human beings. We all worry that somebody isn't going to like us, isn't going to like what we say, isn't going to like how we say it or what we did or how we did it. And I'll tell you, though, there's some folks that have been honest, and I ask for opinion. I ask for feedback, and very rarely do people do it. And I know many times because, listen, they got a lot better things to do than send me a note about how the podcast went or how the live stream went or how I can do my job better. Figure it out, Mike, right? That's your job. So I'm talking to myself here. But when there's someone who cares enough and has been impacted by what you do, and thankfully, there's a handful of people that I can think of right off the top of my head who have been so kind to invest enough to say, hey, I've seen your broadcast or I've listened to your podcast and here's what I like. Here's what you could maybe do better because from my perspective, you're missing something here or whatever. I appreciate that. It's hard to hear if it's something that goes contrary to what I think is what's best in my mind, because I think I have all the answers in my mind, even though I know I don't. But in my strange, insecure world, I'm like, I must be doing this right? So just to be honest with each other and help each other, because I want to help as many other people as I can. And I put this little thing at the beginning of my podcast week. and tell me what you think. How can I do this better? How can I, be a better service to this community? And I genuinely believe that, and I hope that some will reach out and tell me what they think and how I can do this better, and how we can all help each other get through the situation we're on. It's a long journey we're on together,
It
Steve.
is a long journey. And let's pick this up tomorrow because I think this is an important topic to sort of continue. And we will do it tomorrow. We're sort of out of time. What I will say, Mike, is I thought you sounded a lot better yesterday, but I appreciate your insights
That was the
today.
best ever.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had I
yeah,
had no I had a lot of good things to say. Check it out, folks.
yeah,
Yesterday's
yeah.
show, May 18th. All
All right,
right.
Mike. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks, Steve. You too.